Boating safety, essential behaviors. The following presentation is a compilation of best practices and expectations that Lake Barcroft Association has for all boaters on the lake. Our expectations are based on the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators laws and guidelines, and the standard practices of the United States Power Squadron's America's Boating Club. It is imperative that every operator of watercraft understand the essential behaviors while using the lake for the safety of themselves, as well as the safety and well-being of the community. Operating a boat under the influence of alcohol or drugs is strictly prohibited on Lake Barcroft. Alcohol and drugs have many debilitating effects on boaters and swimmers alike, including impaired balance, blurred vision, poor coordination, slower reaction times, and restricted judgment. There's no place for alcohol or drugs in the Lake Barcroft community. Our rules strictly prohibit the operation of any watercraft or the supervision of anybody operating a watercraft while under the influence of alcohol, narcotics, or barbiturates. In addition, no one should be riding a towed watercraft or some sort of similar device under the influence of alcohol, narcotics, or barbiturates. They just have no place in our community. Hours of operation. With due regard to weather conditions and life safety, the lake is open for boat operation 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The Lake Barcroft Watershed Improvement District or the Lake Barcroft Association, for reasons of life or property safety, may close the lake, but generally speaking, the lake is open for boating year-round. It should be noted that conditions do deteriorate after heavy rainfalls, especially where we have large debris items that are brought into the lake, and these are dangers to boats as well as swimmers, and we discourage swimming at those times. At the same time, in the winter, obviously environmental hazards pose a risk to boating, and it is discouraged that you boat while there is ice on the water. It is also discouraged that you boat in those cold conditions without the proper equipment and preparation. After heavy rainfalls, to facilitate cleanup efforts and the dredging activities of the lake, the WID may close sections of the lake down. Anywhere the WID is conducting business operations, boating and swimming is restricted in those areas for a temporary period of time. Additionally, note that there are busy times of the year where we have high boat traffic and recreational use out on the lake. Keep in mind that summer evenings, typically between 5 and 7, there's heavy boat traffic those times. And on holiday weekends like Memorial Day, Labor Day, July 4th, you're going to see especially high use. And so all boat operators are encouraged to operate with due regard for safety. Noise. It must be understood, noise travels very well over the water. Therefore, every effort should be made to keep all noises from our boating activities within the guidelines of the Fairfax County noise ordinances. Boat owners, operators, you are responsible for the noises that come from your vessels. This means parents, you are responsible for the noises, the party noises that your children may make if they take your pontoon boat out at night. No party, music, or other noise originating from your boat shall disrupt the residential tranquility of the neighborhood. We must be courteous. We must be respectful. This is a neighborhood. We all live here together. We need to get along together. Between the hours of sunset and 7 a.m., boat activity noises should not be obtrusive or discernible. We should not be hearing them from our shoreline locations. Please make extra efforts to keep all nighttime activity as quiet as possible. Should you have a complaint about a vessel out on the water out at night, do your best to hail that vessel and get their attention and file your complaint directly with those individuals. If you cannot do so, please call the Fairfax County Police non-emergency dispatch number at 703-691-2131. Accountability. Boat operators, you are responsible for all souls on board your vessel. It is recommended that one responsible adult, be that you or another individual, be assigned to keep track of the whereabouts and the safety of all individuals on the vessel, especially the non-swimmers, in particular young children, when you are near the water and underway. So that includes around the dock space. When swimming activities are conducted off of your watercraft, always have a designated water watcher to monitor the swimmer accountability and make sure everybody is okay. Getting underway. When getting underway, the operator shall ensure no other watercraft, floats, or swimmers are in the immediate area. And this is especially important when you are backing out from a dock or a pier. When you're leaving dock and pier, make sure you give way to the vessels that are already underway nearby you. And before powering your motorized vessel, ensure that the prop that's in the water and clear of loose lines, stick, vegetation, and other debris. It's a good habit to look around and under your boat before leaving the dock. Speed. It may seem counterintuitive that manual powered vessels and electric powered vessels are capable of a dangerous speed. But there are boats like rowing sculls that can travel up to 13 miles an hour. And there are certain electric motors that can plane boat hulls well over the 7-mile-an-hour speed limit on our lake. All vessels must be operated at a safe speed out on Lake Barcroft, where a safe speed is a speed less than the maximum at which the operator can take proper and effective action to avoid collision and stop within a distance appropriate to the prevailing conditions. In order to maintain that safe speed, that operator needs to have clear visibility of where they're going. They need to consider the traffic density around them, the maneuverability of their vessel, that is, how long it will take it to stop, how long it will take it to turn, and what other congestion is on the water around them. All vessels must remain at a reasonable distance from the shoreline when underway. And to minimize the damage to shorelines and to provide a safe lake environment, our electric-powered watercraft may not exceed a no-wake speed of 5 to 7 miles an hour. We've established slow zones within the lake in those areas of greatest danger to swimmers. And these slow zones include all the areas around our 5 beaches, the area between beaches 2 and 3, and the area out in front of beach 4, between beach 4 itself and the 2 points of land across from the beach. In the coves extending out from beach 1 and in the Ridgeway Narrows, within 20 feet of all shorelines, which includes most coves on the lake, and anywhere around our demarcated swimming areas and other structures that exist. These slow zones in no way relieve scullers of their special responsibility for the safety of the watercraft and the swimmers during their operations. It's a boating courtesy to give people a wide berth and slow down when you're passing other boats, especially those who are fishing, who are at anchor, or who are retrieving swimmers from the water. Please pass wide when at all possible. Maneuvering a vessel. These next few slides are going to give you some general guidelines to consider while operating a vessel on a lake. In no means are they going to cover direct operation of your boat or the navigational rules of the road. Those will be covered in another presentation. They will give you some general considerations to keep in mind. All motorized watercraft are expected to keep to the right when they are circumnavigating the main lake. That is, follow a pattern that is counterclockwise around the lake. Unless you are retrieving a person who's in tow or approaching the shoreline for the purpose of mooring, try to stay to the right. If you are operating a non-motorized vessel, you are also encouraged to follow that counterclockwise pattern. Although not required, it is important that you do follow a general pattern of flow and try to stay within 50 feet of the shoreline, and then that way you will not be in conflict with our motorized vessels. Vessels who are operating in groups should be considerate of the channel space and avoid more than 2 abreast situations when at all possible, especially if you're operating a rafted cluster of pontoon boats, such as these right here. To operate many boats abreast does take up space and is difficult to navigate around for other boaters. So please keep this in mind. Try to keep your rafting activities in an anchorage out of the main boating channel. If you are in a single paddler vessel, like a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard, consider functioning in tight pairs or tight groups. Don't operate multiple people abreast. Our lake is fairly narrow, and there are not very large navigational channels, so please be considerate of other boaters on the lake. All vessels must keep in an unobstructed forward-facing view at all times while underway. Now, this is uniquely difficult for certain vessels like rowing sculls and rowboats, who might be set up for a rear-facing position. No way does your obligation to have a forward-facing view be replaced by the fact that your boat is not set up that way. You might want to provide yourself with a set of mirrors on your outriggers, or perhaps purchase a boat with a unique forward-facing rowing configuration. All rear-facing vessels, such as rowboats and sculls, must continue to adhere to the navigational rules and right-of-way, including yielding to swimmers. Scullers, you are particularly a hazard to swimmers, so choose an appropriate time to boat when there is less swimming activity. Swimmers. Lake Barcroft is unique in that we permit open water swimming in almost all aspects, all parts of the lake itself. Boaters have a responsibility to yield right away to swimmers, but swimmers must understand that there are restricted mobility vessels that are operated by the WID that are unable to avoid you or stop even if they see you. You need to avoid the path of all boats, especially our restricted mobility boats, even though you do have a right-of-way over vessels in general. Although swimming is permitted in all areas of the lake, swimmers are reminded that they have a responsibility to be visible with bright colored caps, to tow some form of a flotation device to help with that visibility and to provide you a swimming aid, and to swim with a buddy or in small groups. You are also encouraged to avoid the main boating channels of the lake and to avoid high traffic areas of the lake. It is best practice to swim along the shoreline rather than swimming straight down the center of the lake itself. Our rules say no boat in motion may be closer to a swimmer, excluding swimmers from the boat itself, than a distance of 30 feet. You might be using a boat to pick a swimmer up, and obviously that's an exemption to that rule itself. No watercraft may enter our guarded, demarcated swimming areas that are roped off like this. They may have warning buoys like this. Please stay on the outside of this buoy. Please stay away from our ropes at least a distance of 30 feet. And when you're swimming from an anchored vessel, you are encouraged to stay within 75 feet of that vessel. So as swimming out in the center of the lake around an anchored vessel, please stay close to that vessel to ensure better visibility. Docking at common properties. LBA provides some docks and bulkheads for boats to moor up to on a temporary basis. Our space is very limited, so consider how long you plan to be there and moor your boat. At no time should you moor your boat overnight at any of these properties. If you have a light non-motorized watercraft, we suggest that you pull that out of the water onto the grassy sections of our common properties rather than leaving it tied to a dock that a larger pontoon craft might benefit from using. We recommend you keep your boat away from our demarcated swimming areas. Keep your boat in an area that is downwind of the swimming area, so it's not likely to blow into the swimming area. And keep in mind that wind plays a very critical role in docking itself and in the procedure of approaching a dock. make sure you do so considering the wind signature of your vessel itself. Because pontoon boats have a high wind signature, it's recommended that if you must dock at the beach, do so on the downwind side of the swimming area, and lift the bow of the vessel and pull it into the shore as high as you can to really help secure that boat. We do not have any tie downs or anchor points for you at our beaches in the sand area, so by pulling it up on the beach is the best means of securing it in place, especially on a windy day. For docking procedures, these next few slides are not really going to teach you how to dock your boat specifically, but give you some general behaviors to consider when you are practicing and docking your vessel. First of all, a general guideline is anybody who's not assisting you in the docking operation should remain seated for their own safety. As mentioned earlier, consider the wind and the current, and on particularly windy days, we also have some wave action in parts of our lake. Keep these in mind as you approach a dock, and when at all possible, approach into the wind and into the current with a slow forward movement, slow enough that you still have steerage and control. Approach with a controlled speed to maintain headway, and as you approach that dock, shut your power down and coast the boat in. When you're 1 to 2 boat lengths from the dock, just jockey the power on and off as necessary to maintain your headway. And as you approach the dock and become closer, swing your wheel towards the dock and back down. Backing in reverse with your rudder turned toward the dock is going to slow your forward headway, and it's going to cause your stern to pivot in towards the dock with good control. Keep in mind that all our motorized vessels are powered by motors on the back, which causes them to pivot around the stern itself, and that's just a general consideration in navigating your vessel. All occupants of your boat need to keep their hands in and be careful not to get a foot or a hand stuck between the dock and the boat, as this can render some very serious harm. Those who are assisting in securing the vessel, find a cleat and adhere at the direction of the skipper, a line to tie fast to help bring the boat in alongside, and then secure it fully with a cleat hitch. Anchoring. The following guidelines are some best practices to consider when anchoring, as well as some Lake Barcroft specific rules governing restrictions with anchoring. You at no time should be anchoring in the areas right in front, directly in front of Beach 4 and east towards the dam. And that main structure of the lake are the submerged aeration hoses, and we do not want to risk snagging those with your anchor. There are a few other areas in the lake that are restricted for anchoring as well, and they are shown on our fishing and anchoring map that you can find on the lake's website. It is also posted on the LBA WID's website. The main reason for these restrictions is to protect submerged equipment that the WID has in place, particularly aeration system itself. If you are swimming from a boat that's anchored, we recommend and encourage you to stay within 75 feet of that vessel, and at no time should you swim out of sight of that vessel. You need to be near your boat at all times. LBA strictly prohibits the anchoring of a boat overnight unless you are receiving specific authorization from LBA or the WID. No time should your boat be anchored to the bottom of the lake in an overnight setup. Some particulars to consider when deciding equipment that you want to use for anchoring. Think about the makeup of the lake bottom itself. 75% of our lake is soft sand or silt. Approximately 20% of that is organic matter, leaf matter, and then another 5% is a clay or rock bottom. We do not have a lot of vegetation to worry about snagging in. Anchors that work very well, fluke styles will work very well in these conditions, And if you have a pontoon boat, you're going to want to get a anchor that is about 15 pounds or a little heavier. Heavier is always better. To anchor anywhere in our lake at any depth, you want at least 150 feet of line, so you have the proper scope for your anchor. We have found that the plow type and Danforth anchors work very well for our pontoon boats. A smaller dinghy might be okay with a mushroom anchor, as most of our lake is a soft mud. When you are dropping an anchor, consider the depth of the water you're in and make sure you have enough of a road or a scope to play out. The scope, which is that ratio of depth to anchor line, ideally should be about in a 5-to-1 ratio in our lake. So if you're anchoring about 20 feet of water, you need approximately 100 feet of line to have a good scope. The scope is, the longer that scope, the shallower this angle is going to be, and it is going to help your anchor catch and hold better to the bottom. Good practice is to have an initial piece of road that contains about 10 to 12 feet of chain, and then follow that with a regular poly line to the bow of your vessel. To anchor properly, you want to avoid anchoring from the stern itself, as this could snag in your motor or get fouled in the propeller, and rather tie it to a bow cleat or to a bow ring and run it off the front of your vessel. Your anchor is going to be the pivot point for your vessel, and the boat is going to swing with the wind and wave action. You want to make sure that you're in a position that is not going to swing you into the shore, the dock, other boats, other structures, and you want to be especially alert and not anchor in front of any of our swimming areas where you could run the risk of having your boat drift into the demarcated swimming areas. So please pay attention to the position and where you are relative to the shore and other objects. When you're weighing anchor, you are raising it or heaving it up out of the water itself. And so good practice, you have your anchor fast to your bow. It is a good practice to either slowly pull your boat in towards the anchor or use the assistance of your motor and very slowly motor yourself till you're directly over top of that anchor and to free it from the bottom. As you pull that anchor up, flake your rope coils out so things don't get entangled. And when your anchor reaches the surface, shake it of mud or sand, any debris that might be on it, so you don't pull that up into your boat. Unsafe boating practices. Virginia boating law says no person shall operate any watercraft in a reckless, erratic, or negligent manner so as to endanger the life, limb, or property of any person. The following practices are prohibited here at Lake Barcroft: racing with other motorized watercraft, maneuvering intentionally toward another watercraft or person and then veering away from them at the last moment, operating a powered watercraft at higher speeds closer than the 50 feet of shoreline, following directly behind or in the wake of a boat that is towing a person in a floatable device at a distance less than 100 feet, and passing so close to another watercraft, person in the water, or person being towed that it, he, or she is threatened or damaged by the wake of the vessel itself. Additionally, riding or sitting on the bow, gunnels, except for sailboats, the sun deck or top of the seat backs while watercraft is moving at a top speed is a prohibited practice. The sun deck is that area of flat elevated surface that sits above the stern of a boat. All occupants of a pontoon deck boat must remain inside those boats' railings, and passengers may occupy the areas of the vessel to tie up or anchor the vessel and cast off, but otherwise should be confined to the area inside the railings that confine the boat. Practice often witnessed at Lake Barcroft is children sitting on the bow of a pontoon boat. And this is especially hazardous. We have been fortunate not to have anybody injured or harmed by it, but there have been accidents at the lake where children have fallen off the bow of a pontoon boat and just risk being hit by the motor or even drowning. Please do not allow this to happen at the lake. Further, jumping or diving from a moving vessel into the water, jumping or diving from the top deck over the foredeck or any other obstacle on a double-decker pontoon, and jumping or diving from a watercraft, especially the top deck double-decker pontoon, without first thoroughly checking for submerged debris, obstructions, or the bottom depth itself. All of these unsafe practices not permitted at the lake. Allowing a watercraft to make headway while a person is in the water or hanging onto that watercraft, and standing on or intentionally rocking a limited stability vessel such as a canoe or kayak is an equally dangerous practice and prohibited at the lake. Operating a rear-facing vessel such as a rowboat, a scull, without the assistance of forward-facing mirror and the routine of forward sighting techniques is prohibited at the lake. Operating a rowing scull or shell during high traffic or high use hours is also prohibited at the lake. Fishing in the proximity of the demarcated swimming area or any person who is swimming in the water is a prohibited practice at the lake. And operating a vessel, towing a swimmer and or a tube without the dedication of a rear-facing observer, spotting and looking to see if those people are still safe is a practice prohibited here at the lake. So, what have we gained? What do we understand? Do you know the answers to the following questions? Who should be notified for noise violations on the lake? What is meant by a safe speed? Name an unsafe boating practice prohibited here at Lake Barcroft. If you can't answer these questions, review the presentation or seek the slides out on the Lake Barcroft website. The LBA boating rules can be found on the Lake Barcroft Association website, www.lakebarcroft.org. Our rules have been adapted from the Virginia Watercraft Owner's Guide, a publication of the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources. This guide is accepted by the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators, NASBLA. Other resources for this presentation include references from the United States Coast Guard Navigation Center, the America's Boating Club, Boat US, Formula Boats, and West Marine.